Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Halfback Dynasty, episode 10, No Looking Back. My name is Brendan. We are joined today with our co-host, Tyler. Tyler, how the heck you feeling, my man?
Brendan, I'm feeling great, man. I'm trying to keep it together, trying to keep my focus. You had me laughing off camera there. I can't believe that reference dropped. So good stuff, man. It's got me in the mood, man. I'm ready to go. How you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, after just absolutely roasting myself, I did bring the spirits up a little bit. For those of you who want to know, I did just call myself Caillou because I have a baby face and it looks like I'm bald. So get your laughs out now and let's jump into some good football, Tyler. It's basically playoffs. Playoffs is here, baby. They're unless your league is set up in different formats, different layouts, not too sure, but in all of my leagues, week one is officially upon us for the playoffs. So it's first round. I'm in a few different leagues where I have buys or I'm competing in the first round. I have a league where I shafted myself. Well, I know the importance of obviously competing, but also in my rebuilding league to gear up and look ahead to the future. So it's kind of like I'm doubling up on two different, I guess, methods of where my mind is on who am I targeting the second that the offseason happens and who am I going to freaking start in my playoff roster. So I don't know, Tyler, a lot going on. What are you thinking? Crazy
I think that
times.
that's great, man. It's kind of nice to have one of each. I mean, I'm in my big league. I came in as the number two seed, as you well know. Somehow overtook you. What a crazy end to our league last night, man. The standings flipped upside down. That was unbelievable.
Got dropped to
Um,
fourth place, dude. I was like,
I
what the
know, man.
heck?
It looked like our boy Chris was locked into the number one seed literally all year. Fell to three. The draft picks at the bottom, they moved all around. It was crazy, but it's kind of a nice situation that you're in, that you get to look forward to the playoffs, which you got to keep it. You got to keep it fair to yourself. Playoffs can be extremely stressful in fantasy if you allow it. You don't want to let this become like something that ruins your week, your day, whatever. But hey, man, playoffs are stressful, so it's nice that you got the distraction of kind of a rebuilding team that, as you mentioned, looking what you're going to do the second trade window is open back up because,
Mm-hmm.
hey, man, people are cheaper in the off season at times, way cheaper because you're talking months and months and months of nothing. So, hey, I'm going to make this trade because at least it's something to do with my team.
Get the blood flowing again for fantasy
Absolutely,
football
man.
after not doing anything for a month or two.
Yeah, you're good assets maybe in the summer. All of a sudden, you're like, man, I don't know if this guy's as good as I thought he was.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That's crazy. So, yeah, I didn't even realize to think about the crazy last week in the big league, man. Absolutely wild. A lot of shifts. I'm so happy. I think I hold my own first round pick. I think so. At least I know where that stands. It always confuses me when so many different picks are being traded, and then like
Man.
you sell your studs for a projected top pick, but then it ends up being like the eighth overall, so you get shafted there. I don't know, man. So much good stuff in the playoffs in the off season. So much writing on it. So much money involved if you play in money leagues, which is my way of gambling without gambling, baby. I trust inside the mind of McCaffrey. So I'm hoping, man. I got 4 shots at winning a league this year. I'm probably not going to win one. That's usually how it works. So I'll just go chill and play fantasy basketball from here on out.
Yeah, man, this is the best way to gamble because it lasts for at
Mhm.
least 13 weeks. I mean, you're playing a slot machine or a game of craps or cards. I mean, that lasts about 30 seconds. So at least your $100 lasted 13 weeks regardless. So
Yeah. Yeah. Penny slots, baby. I'll be playing those boys for like 10 hours.
you ever
Just,
notice that if you go all in on a penny slot, it's more expensive than if you were playing a dollar slot? Like it's just, it's kind of interesting. You think you're like,
it's
man, I
all
got
a
all
mind
these
game.
deals.
Listen, the
Absolutely.
casinos have it all figured out, man. Otherwise, they wouldn't be making money. They have to lose money like 40% of the time to win money 60% of the time. That's the name of the game.
No
So
doubt, man. We got Blackhawk about an hour away from Denver where we live, and man, you can cruise up there the whole time. You're like, this is it. This is the night. Then you're down 200 within 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then your wife divorces you, takes the kids.
It's usually the wife losing more than I am. I'm usually the one that's like, I'm gonna try and make this 100 last. The missus, man, she gets in a frenzy up there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go spend my money on a bottle of water at the casino. I'm good on gambling.
Right, for
Cool,
sure,
man.
man.
Excellent, excellent. Well, yeah, of course, another great week in the NFL. We have a quick recap. Tyler, you put together a couple good games that stood out. Clearly, the Raiders beat the Jets, which we'll talk about in a second. What a wild game. Absolutely stupid, in my opinion. But let's talk about the Patriots absolutely annihilating the Chargers 45-0. I've been bragging a little bit already about making the playoffs in 4 or 5 of my dynasty leagues. I'm also going to brag about this. Like 2 minutes before kickoff, I actually subbed in Deshaun Watson for Justin Herbert. I don't know why I did it. I just felt the need to do it. And thank goodness I did. Otherwise, I would have lost a seed in the playoffs because I would have lost this week. But, yeah, what did you see during the game that stood out? Is Cam Newton a dog or what's up, man?
I mean, surprisingly, man, there really wasn't much to take away from this game as far as dynasty assets go. I mean, Damon Harris looks like a solid RB. I think he has a decent chance to make a pretty good year 3 jump, but I think a lot of that's going to come down to what New England does at quarterback. Um, Cam Newton's numbers are absolutely horrendous. He's staying relevant because, I mean, he's a running back, let's face it. He's getting in the end zone on the ground. But, man, when I really take in his stats week to week, it's just awful. I think he had like 79 passing yards last week. And, some of that could have been game flow. They had multiple, I think they had 2 special teams touchdowns. So, I mean, some of that can be equated to that. But I think that's a decent pass for Newton as well. Newton's not been good. It's his ground game that's keeping him going. I mean, on the other side, Herbert looked atrocious. Again, nothing. I wouldn't be too worried about that. He's still a great QB asset moving forward. Keenan Allen remains a top 10, 15 wide receiver heading into next year. I think Mike Williams could have maybe his best season ever next year with Herbert if they get on the same page and remain healthy. Other than that, man, honestly, like I said, I didn't see much to take away from this game in Dynasty. So what do you think?
Cam Newton's a free agent after this year, and I don't think this game does anything to bring him back. I don't know if they're in the playoff hunt. I can't recall straight off the top of my head. I don't think they have a chance. I think they're in the hunt, but I don't think they could actually make it. So yeah, unless something crazy happens, Newton's for sure gone. I think the Patriots are gonna fully realize they need to engage in a rebuild. So to me, I'd really like to see that happen. I agree with you. Nothing crazy about Herbert. I mean, to me, he's in the running for Rookie of the Year. I mean, he has put together a fantastic season. The offense as a whole really isn't that bad. Austin Eckler coming back actually has been performing a little bit better than I thought. Not necessarily in this game, but I think he came back 2 weeks ago. So he's still dynamic. He still puts up great points. I thought he wasn't going to be used at all. So I guess generally speaking, Tyler, not just in correlation to what we saw here, I think both teams will have to really break down where they want to go, their identities, and kind of see what they want to do moving forward. I don't think this game affects anything Dynasty long term. What's already going to happen in the offseason is already going to happen between these two rosters. I think, heck, man, Mike Williams, put him on the board, baby. Top 15. I like that. I think he's going to excel with Herbert. So all your takes, I definitely agree with.
Yeah, I've always been a big Mike Williams fan. I've owned him in our big league since his rookie year. I've never felt the need to move him. I really like him. So I keep holding out hope. I mean, he shows flashes of being really, really good, and then he just has dud games. But maybe with a full off season with Herbert, hey, man, who knows? He's a big body, good player. He's quick. He's fast. He's downfield. Keenan Allen sees the best coverage, obviously. So who knows?
Keenan Allen's
could probably
a dog
be bought for pretty cheap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Keenan Allen was 27, 28 years old. Guarantee you guys are going to try to dump him, or girls, whoever owns Keenan Allen, they'll for sure try to get rid of him just because, again, as we've talked about, every episode, if not every episode, every other episode, people have like an age fear, a fear of once a running back or a wide receiver hits that particular age, then they're just nothing. They're a nobody.
Yeah,
So,
which we talked about. Look at the best players in the league. They're all in their upper 20s.
and Keenan Allen is arguably like the best route runner in the league too. So
Oh, his first three steps are just ridiculous, you
insane,
know? Yeah,
insane. So I own
absolutely.
him. I own him in a big league. I'm not going to sell him anything less than a first round pick. I'll probably
Sure.
need more than that. So, cool, Tyler. Let's move on. So obviously the big news of the week, the Jets absolutely blew it against the Raiders. They gave up a last 5-second play, last drive. Derek Carr threw a tutty. Who was it? Henry Ruggs? I think it was Ruggs who caught it.
Henry Ruggs, baby.
Yeah, wow. Nice flash right there. I mean, he hasn't done much this season, but it's good to see him out there making big plays. My favorite thing about this game was actually the day after when the Jets decided to fire the defensive coordinator, but they still kept Adam Gase, the head coach. So I think they're for sure keeping him around because they know they will not win a game with Adam Gase there because they really want Trevor Lawrence. If they would have won this game, that would have – I think that might have set them back into second, or they would have been tied for second last, or they would have been tied for last with the Jaguars, bro. So that game, they would have won, really could have compromised them getting Trevor Lawrence. Think about that. It was a blessing that happened. They lost.
Is that why they called that play call? Maybe, I don't know, but wouldn't be an episode of Halfback Dynasty without a little Gase love there. Yeah,
Adam Gase. Man.
Good Lord, I don't get it. But getting back to the game, man, Darren Waller, what a performance. Historic tight end performance in fantasy. 13 receptions, 13 on 17 targets, 200 yards and 2 TDs. Just absolutely unbelievable. We've talked about it all year. Darren Waller is such a big part of their offense. He has such a huge target share that I mean, you never expect this, but Darren Waller going over 100 and a touchdown is a decent – there's a chance every game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you could maybe say that about one other tight end in the league currently, and that's Travis Kelce with Kittle being hurt. So Waller's game was exceptional. As far as the play call, Brendan, I'm just going to read this word for word, and hopefully I can get through it, because even when I was writing it, I'm not sure it's a great constructed sentence, but let me just read this. This was a report that the Jets defensive play call was unheard of. The Jets sent the house, meaning 7 pass rushers or more, on the Raiders' game-winning touchdown, a Hail Mary type situation where only a TD hurt them. It's an absolutely unheard of play call. This website's been tracking data since 2006. They were the only team in that database based on this play to send 6 pass rushers that met all 3 qualifiers. It was the final 15 seconds of regulation. It was between a 4 and 8 point lead and 40 plus yards to the end zone. So that's 251 plays ran with the same situation since 2006. This was the only time that defensive play call had been called. And I'm not a conspiracy guy by any means, but it's very interesting what you just brought up about Trevor Lawrence. Why was that play call made in that situation where, again, even if you bring the house, why not double, triple cover Henry Ruggs, the one guy that can beat you to the house through the air? I just, the whole thing was mind-boggling. Maybe it was just, hey, a perfect storm, a really weird thing. But Henry Ruggs would be the guy I'd be watching more, regardless of the season he's had. He's arguably, I've read, he's the fastest player in the NFL. He's faster than Tyreek Hill. Why is he left with one guy? No safety over the top, no help.
So hear me out.
Interesting.
First off, maybe Adam Gase sniffed too much salt or powder. You know, there are videos of him on the sideline whiffing some stuff. So maybe he just overthought it and tweaked. Or maybe the conspiracy we're talking about them tanking is actually not a conspiracy because it is happening. There is no reason for them to win that game. But you have to look at it this way. The player who was covering Ruggs he doesn't want to get beat. The coaches aren't going to tell him, hey, blow this coverage, because that player is trying to secure a job as well and get a big contract. All of these players in the NFL, they want to become the best player ever, and they want to make as much money as possible without destroying their bodies. So I think it was a terrible call, but I think the call was supposed to improve the chances of the Raiders winning that game. That's my opinion. But again, I don't think the players threw the game. I think it's very rare for players to throw games. But yeah, I think it's a stupid play call. Clearly the data suggests that nobody else was this stupid to do that. So it just is funny how it's a team trying to acquire arguably the best quarterback talent since Andrew Luck. So put it in the books. I guess we'll see what the heck happens. Maybe the Jets will get a win or two and the Jags get Trevor Lawrence. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, man, I read their middle linebacker for the Jets actually calls their plays on the field, and he was about to check to something else. So he almost changed the play call on the field according to his report. If you look at it closely, the Jets got extremely close to tackling Carr. So, hey, man, it almost worked out. And then on the opposite side, I'm sure you remember the Raiders collapse last year. They were super good about halfway through the season, didn't make the playoffs. So if they lost to the Jets, it could have started their epic collapse. But hey, it's all sports history now. And then one more tiny thing for everybody that's disappointed about Henry Ruggs so far. Still a nice dynasty asset. Did you see the separation he got on that play? As soon as that ball was in the air, it's like, well, if Carr doesn't underthrow him, that's a touchdown.
Dude, he was like 4 to 5 yards away.
Yeah, it's crazy.
My gosh.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you know he has the talent to be great. And I don't think there's really ever any, I guess, question of him being great in the NFL. It's just his injuries. You know, he obviously wasn't 100% this season. And it's always tough because rookies want to come in and make a direct impact. And a lot of players, in terms of dynasty owners, you look at a rookie who came in injured and you're automatically thinking negatively towards that player. Think about all the people. Well, we'll actually talk about it here in a second. You know, think about all the situations where, you know, starting quarterback went down. For example, now CeeDee Lamb's value tanked. Like, do you still value him as what you did before the season? So I don't know. Lots to look at it. I think Ruggs has shown he's capable in the NFL, and he might be a guy I'm looking to buy this offseason.
Yeah, the Alabama twosome's got a lot to prove heading into next year, that's for sure, because Ruggs and Judy have both been a large disappointment. And you got another Alabama boy that's going to go top 5, man, in most rookie drafts at RNSF. So Devonta Smith looks like the man.
Yeah, honestly, Alabama just freaking.
It's just somebody new every year.
It's insane. I mean, they're recruiting, obviously, because of their organization, but it's crazy because these SEC teams, a lot of these Southern schools, even some ACC teams, I mean, they just year in, year out pump out NFL talent. It's crazy. And I feel like Big Ten pumps out tight ends. I don't know, dude. Penn State, they get great running backs. I don't know. I think it's the system, the collegiate level system, that their schemes fit these players so well that they get a huge boost in the draft, and then their skill set transfers over. And maybe that's something we should talk about. I don't follow college football too much, but I think that could be a great topic of conversation, is kind of breaking down coaching systems for college schools and kind of how that impacts their skill set moving into the NFL. You know, clearly if you're a 5-star recruit and you go to Alabama, honestly, NFL teams know about you coming out of high school. But maybe if you're a 5-star recruit and you go to some small school like Iowa State, you know, you kind of automatically plummeted in terms of your stock because your schedule is not very good. So I don't know, Tyler. I think this offseason, you know, the offseason is always really long. We've got a lot of great ideas that we can talk about. I think that should be one of them, kind of the farm system idea. So cool, man. Without further ado, let's jump into rookie stock. What to expect in the 2021 fantasy season, values, all things rookies, baby. You compiled a nice list here. You just want to talk about specific positions, go in order?
It's up to you, man. I think with not everybody playing Superflex, I say we do running back wideouts this week and then see if we do QBs, tight ends next week. What do you think?
That's cool with me. I mean, we got a lot of rookies on this list to talk about. So we'll break down their seasons. We'll give some expectations for next season, our own values. Tyler, I know you and I like different guys. I mean, you value players differently than me. So I think it'll be good. It'll be a good dialogue between us. And hopefully we have some disagreements here on how we value some of these players so we can really break it down. Why don't we jump into running backs first, as you just suggested? First up on the list, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What did you want to talk about with him?
I'm just going to kind of, for every asset we have, just give their stats where they are currently. CEH has 151 carries for 692 yards, 4 teeters on the ground, 234 receiving yards for 1 TD. I guess I'll just I'll just jump right in here, Brendan. It seems odd to say, but I mean, he's currently, like, scoring wise, a borderline top 10 running back, depending on your format.
Sure
But
doesn't feel that way.
yeah, I was going to say, I think CEH's rookie season has been a little bit disappointing, and I don't think that's anything against him. I think it's more just the community was expecting so much from him. He went
Saquon
from
Barkley type numbers.
Yeah, he went from a back end first round pick, maybe a second round pick, to when he got drafted by KC, jumped to the consensus 1-1, which, you expect a lot. So I think at times this year he's looked really good running the ball, and other times he's looked lost. I don't view CEH as a pure runner like some of the other guys in this class. I still expect a jump in year 2. I still think he's a great asset moving forward at the position. Unfortunately, running backs seem to be getting, I don't know if it's deeper and deeper. It's just so many teams run multiple guys. There's very few workhorses, as we've discussed. I don't think CEH is a workhorse. I don't think he ever will be. I
It's too
don't think he
small.
has, yeah, he doesn't have the skill set and he doesn't have the size for it. I'd still certainly value him at probably 2 first plus
Hmm.
already. I think he could get 2 firsts and maybe more on top. My feelings on rookies. You got to give him time. I see no reason to sell CEH, that's for sure. But I think also he's going to get more involved in the pass game next year, which I think could really help his stock. I was actually a little bit surprised that he only has 1 TD through the air. So those are kind of my thoughts on CEH. Brendan, what do you got on him?
Well, when you're on such a potent offense, such as the Chiefs, I mean, they're excelling with or without him. So it's not like they need him. And my point being, they don't have to revolve the offense around him. So low key, what he's doing right now is honestly just enough, because he's not hurting the Chiefs in any way, but he is hurting fantasy owners with high expectations because of the fact that some people probably gave up insane amount of draft capital to move up, or draft picks and a couple players to grab him. I mean, there's no better system than an Andy Reid's Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, any running back that would have went there would have been instantly the 101. I think we spoke about this before. I wish that the Chiefs would have taken DeAndre Swift. That would have been absolute madness, man. My goodness. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't been impressive, and that's the honest facts. Yes, he is getting you top 10 to 15 numbers, but I think that's kind of it's not consistent, if you will. It's not consistent. I don't think Le'Veon Bell really impacts his value that much because CEH isn't really performing that well anyways. But you're right. He should be getting at least 5 catches a week and like 90 to 120 total yards as a rookie. And that's being a little bit generous, I'd say, considering, Patrick Mahomes has arguably the best wide receiver and the best tight end on his team to throw to. But if Mahomes is averaging close to 400 yards a game, how can the running backs not even get like 100 of those yards? Blows my
Yeah,
mind, man.
and I think patience will pay off with CEH. I think next year there will be more opportunity for that kind of value out of him. So
Mm-hmm.
again, he's ticking along as a top 10 back, which is fantastic. That's what we talked about last week with the greed factor of fantasy. You want more, you want more, you want more, you want more.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think he's a fantastic asset moving forward. Would not even consider trading CEH. So
Would you trade him for 2 firsts and like 2 firsts in 2021 and a first in 2022?
I think the value is certainly there, but I think you could regret that trade. I think those are kind of the trades that you and I have talked about in the past that, you're just, that's just next year's rookie hype. You could make that trade and all three of those picks could bust, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's just a bad trade. I've kind of changed my way of thinking as far as trades go that at times, as exciting as rookie picks are, I think it's better to trade for established assets. I traded a boatload to get Jerry Judy, the rights to Jerry Judy. And looking at that now, it's a absolutely atrocious trade, Brendan.
Do you recall
Obviously,
off the top of your head what it was?
I'm not sure I want to say it on air, but yeah, it was a lot. It included Chubb, it included Mark Andrews. It was a lot. So, and again,
Woo!
I'm not ready to throw in the towel on a rookie asset after 1 year. Drew Lock's terrible. The offensive line is horrendous. So, you live with the trades, but I think in the opposite uh, way, I wouldn't move CEH for a bunch of unknowns because you don't know if those guys are going to hit.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And just like you said, that you gave up a lot. Trades work both ways. Sometimes you are on the receiving end. Sometimes you are on the giving end. That's the
Sure.
beautiful thing in Dynasty is on those days that you feel down, you'll get those days that you feel good. So excellent. I think it's very fitting to talk about him first as a rookie running back because he was arguably the consensus 101. If you're ready, let's move into the next guy who's actually been very surprising, and that is Antonio Gibson, running back for the Washington football team. This guy looks like he's getting better and better each week. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gibson has 141 carries for 659 yards and 11 TDs. Man, that's what really stuck out to me. He's also got 233 yards receiving for 0 touchdowns. But this speaks to our point. That is 1 yard behind CEH. So
And he
you
was a
know,
third-round pick in rookie drafts. I mean, come on.
exactly. So 1 yard behind his receiving. I'm not sure if I said that, but so to me, we're going to get to what is on. A lot of people are going to think unfairly, but we're going to get to the best rookie running back asset here in a bit. But as of right now, I think Gibson is in the conversation for being the best rookie running back asset. It's a shame he got hurt this week. I was really looking forward to what he did against the solid Pittsburgh defense coming off that monster Thanksgiving game. So it was unfortunate there. You look forward, the threat of Darius Geis is gone. There's no other threats in that backfield whatsoever. McKissick is not a threat. Barber is not a threat. I mean, Gibson
I
is
can't
going to be
stand Peyton Barber, bro.
yeah, Gibson's their guy. He's going to be their guy next year. I think he'll have a heavy workload next year. Those who drafted Gibson for his high upside, you might have fallen into a workhorse, which is all you're hoping for in your rookie draft. That if you take a guy in the late second, early third, mid third, it turns into an asset like Gibson. As
Mhm.
much as you and I talked about at the beginning, we were extremely, I guess, not impressed with Gibson. He's
Well, he was
proved his
sketchy. He was
yeah, he
sketchy.
proved
He
he
just seemed like
proved
a
his
sketchy
doubters
asset.
wrong. Yeah, he's not necessarily just a gadget player that maybe he got labeled. Um, and he's really come into his own the last month or so here is when he's really taken off as an asset. So kind of like CEH, I don't see any reason at all to shop him, to sell him this offseason. If his injury's not too bad and he continues on this tick and keeps playing the way he's played, I would have no problem putting Gibson as a top 12 running back next year, heading into next year based on age and upside.
Wow. I could see it. I could see it. And I'll tell you what, he's a whole lot more expensive than what most people paid for him. So,
Tell you what.
yeah, I offered a first round pick for him. I think like week 1, week 2, because in one of my big dynasty leagues, I only had really Nick Chubb and Dalvin Cook, and then I have Marlon Mack, but JT got drafted. And then Mack was looking like he was still going to hold the reins to the backfield, but then he tore his Achilles. Brutal injury. My goodness. So I went after Antonio Gibson, talked with the guy for quite some time, the owner, and he wasn't selling. He wasn't selling. His strategy, legit, his strategy is he doesn't like first-round picks. He likes to accumulate a bunch of second and third-round picks to try to find guys like Antonio Gibson. But let me clear the air. Guys like Antonio Gibson don't come around that often in a sense of his production. Hoping to hit on these second-round picks and third-round picks is a lot harder to do than you think. So I think that strategy is a little bold. I'd rather have the first-round picks. But if you find those gems, Terry McLaurin 2 years ago was a third-round pick in rookie drafts. If you find these guys, you're looking really good because you just got some studs for dirt cheap. It's a risky move to do, but hey.
Well, and I think to your point, Brendan, do your own research, trust yourself, trust the footage. It was a few years back, but my brother took Jeremy Langford in the first round. And
wow,
obviously he had 2 really good years, if I remember right,
cold.
for your boys. So,
he is cold.
Trust your judgment with rookies. The people that put out these rookie rankings are certainly based on things, but they're just published. That doesn't mean that they have a magic 8 ball. So
because they're reporters or they publish their articles, you automatically have this feeling that wow, they must know what they're talking about because they're published online, or wow, this is ESPN. You know what I mean? I agree. You gotta believe what you see from your own eyes and take any advice or any article you read with a grain of salt. Numbers don't lie, statistics don't lie, and advanced analytics don't lie. Metrics don't lie. That has a big thing to do. It's a big portion of how you can judge whether an athlete has a greater chance of being successful or not. I did not think Antonio Gibson measured up to be what he was now. And the biggest worry, Tyler, was the gadget player. He was a gadget player, and there was no trust that he would be able to be a workhorse running back, which clearly we were wrong. And real quick, I'd like to throw out there, I wonder what Washington's going to do. I mean, they have a lot to think about this offseason. If they have their first-round pick, they're gonna get a pretty good pick. Well, unless they win the division. Oh, my gosh. I don't even want to talk about that. But I think one of their top linemen, Brandon Scherf's going to be a free agent. I don't know if they'll re-sign him. They clearly put a lot of focus on their defense, which is going to be – their defense is going to be crazy good. Their defense is going to be crazy good. But maybe if Antonio Gibson gets a nice quarterback to complement him, give him some more passes, which he's already in a pretty decent spot, his stock could only go up. If he did this on a bad offense –
agreed.
Antonio Gibson's only going to go up, in my opinion. So I like it, man. How many first-round picks would you pay for him?
I think he's currently worth kind of like CEH. I could see him at a 2+ value, And to circle back to another thing you said, Brendan, that at the beginning of the year, that guy that didn't sell, that's fantastic value for Gibson. But sometimes you just got to tone it down. Somebody very wise once told me, all you're doing is kicking the can down the road. Moving Gibson for a first, yes, you're gaining value there, but you're just hoping the next rookie hits. Mm-hmm. That person showed great patience, and right now, a first-round pick, what is that pick you offered him right now? Where would that land in that draft?
Right now, my pick will probably be 112, baby.
See, that's terrible value.
I mean, 117 to 112 because I'm making the playoffs. But you have to look at it this way, though. I mean, the disparity between a third-round pick, which he took him, and a first-round pick, yeah, that's extraordinary patience, and I'm not denying that. But, I mean, that's a huge profit at the beginning of the season. Almost in any other situation, that trade would have favored the guy getting the first-round pick. So,
that's huge, man.
But you're right. This was a strategy, and I'm going to tell you this. He also has James Robinson. The same owner who has Antonio Gibson has Robinson. He's obviously seeing something.
And I don't disagree. The value was huge, but you fast forward, 6 months, and that value is terrible. The 112 for Gibson is a terrible trade. And sometimes you just got to see what your guys develop into. Like, Obviously we know he's my boy, but how many people have dumped Jerry Jeudy? What happens next year if he comes out and he's a top 15 wideout and you traded him for the 112? It's a terrible pick or a
Best
terrible
player in the
trade,
NFL, baby.
Yeah. So sometimes you gotta just simmer it. And I'm shocked that person did not take that trade
Me
based on
too.
where Gibson was drafted and the what ifs. And Geis was probably their running back still at that point.
He
And
was. Oh, actually,
yeah.
this might have been like right after the Geist news, and I was
Okay.
desperate, man. Like I was willing to overpay because in this league it's so difficult to get RBs, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna chalk up my first. I think I offered it to obviously for Antonio Gibson. I think I offered it for Joshua Kelly. Like I was ready to just overpay at the time, and you know what? I'm happy I kept my first round pick because I flipped it, as you know, for Myles Gaskin and Christian Kirk. Myles Gaskin is coming back looking like he'll help me win the ship, and then he'll go to nothing in the offseason. But I don't care.
Yeah, see that's very interesting that all you just said right there because again, I'm shocked that person didn't take the
Me
trade.
too.
It would have been a great trade for you now. It would have been a terrible trade for him. And then look at all the hype that Joshua Kelly got. That's a terrible trade had that gone through.
Agreed.
So trading is so just it's iffy in Dynasty. It's
It's
very,
tough.
very, very iffy. So man, we could spend all day on Gibson, but should we move on to our next guy here, Brendan?
Yeah. Let me throw this out there. You said that the best rookie running back asset was coming up. I'm excited to hear who you prefer, you think's the best rookie running back, and I'll let you know mine once we get to the end of the list. Maybe they'll be the same, maybe they'll be different. I will say I think this next RB has a lot of promise to be the number one running back from this class. And Tyler, who are we going to talk about? Who is this player?
Agreed. J.K. Dobbins up next. He's got 83 carries for 451 yards and 4 TDs. He's also got 103 receiving yards for 0 touchdowns so far. Dobbins has not received the type of work that some owners were hoping so far. I know a lot of kind of, I guess you could say, savvy dynasty players or future forward-thinking dynasty owners drafted Dobbins more for 2021.
Mm-hmm.
You still had Mark Ingram there, who was still going to get carries. You got Gus the Bus. Their backfield is kind of ugly, but for me, Dobbins, like I said, was always a pick for the future. His value among the community seems higher than some of the other RBs that maybe have done more already this year than him. I think a lot of people do view Dobbins and or Taylor as the best assets in this class for running backs, which, maybe their stats don't support that currently, but hey, that's just the way it is. And a lot of that is Dobbins is a pure runner, and he got drafted into a pure running system. Baltimore is a running team. He's a true runner. So, kind of like all the guys on the list or a majority of them, Dobbins is a must hold. Again, if you drafted Dobbins for this year and you're disappointed, I think you had to taper your expectations from the start. Even if you took him with the 1-1, that's great, but he's for next year. He's not for this year. And hey, in your playoff push, maybe he does become the guy in your week 15, the semifinals into the finals. Maybe by that point he is the guy in Baltimore, and he's getting 25 touches a game and you can roll him, and maybe, hey, if you took him early and he wins you a title, that's all you can ask for. So yeah, again, for me, Brendan, Dobbins he's more about next year, but he's shown some good signs this year. So
And you're totally right about people drafting him to hopefully be a stud in 2021. But to be honest, the expectations that I was hearing were people were expecting him to be the guy the second half of this season. He looks electric when he gets the ball. A lot of his runs, he breaks off, gets like 20 yards. He looks pretty good. I'm not going to lie. It's just you have Lamar Jackson, who honestly has been a pretty big disappointment. But you're right. He's a running quarterback. You have Mark Ingram, who is a leader, who is a veteran. And I'm sure Dobbins is learning a ton from Mark Ingram. I'm sure Dobbins is going to come out of this next year and be an absolute stud. Like, I'm talking Ray Rice level without punching people. He's going to be a stud, and I would buy Dobbins. Honestly, I would for sure. I'd buy CEH if you feel the value's down. I'm not going to lie. I think CEH and Dobbins both will have lower value than what people thought they would have entering the 2021 season. I like Dobbins more than CEH, and I like Dobbins more than Antonio Gibson. So I think Dobbins is worth 2 first as well, but I'd be willing to chalk up a little bit more, man. I think he's going to be a stud. I really do.
Yeah, I think he's worth 2 firsts also. You know, we talked about it a million times in Dynasty, youth, hype, potential. That's very, very expensive. And a lot of these rookies, man, they're kids. Let's face it, they're kids. They're learning their way. All these guys' bodies are going to look different next year. They're going to be more jacked. They're going to be more in shape. That's just the way it is. So these guys could all be totally different players next year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that gets oversimplified in sports that these are kids. You know, it takes some time to figure out what you're doing. So.
And how long can Mark Ingram go for? I'm looking up his age right now. He's 30 years old. I mean, granted,
he's done next year.
He was a backup running back, I think, in New Orleans for quite some time. So, I mean, well, he was like the 1B. So I get it. He hasn't like gotten the beat down that a lot of running backs get. But I mean, he's 30 years old. Being 31, which he will next year, in the NFL at the running back position, man, you're gonna go downhill very quickly unless you are the legendary Frank Gore or Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, I think Ingram's done next year. I mean, not in the literal sense. I think he'll sign somewhere. Maybe he's back there. He'll be a complimentary back because he's a good player. You know, Ingram's been around for a long time. He's been doing it for a long time. He's always been underrated, underappreciated. He's a good running back. But
seems like a good teammate too.
Yeah, he does. And you're not keeping Dobbins off the field next year for Ingram. That's for
They're
sure.
going to let him loose. I agree. Yeah. I think Dobbins will have a fantastic year, and I think that's truly his entering the prime type of year.
So, absolutely, man. Agreed.
Cool, man. So now next up. So, I agree. J.K. Dobbins is a top rookie running back asset for me. But I personally think that this next running back is the best rookie running back out of this class. Even though his stats won't show it, I think he is. Tyler, who is that?
We got Jonathan Taylor up next. 148 carries for 609 yards, 4 TDs on the ground, 271 yards through the air, and 1 TD. So I'm with you, Brendan. I think Jonathan Taylor is a beast of an asset. I think future looking, he, to me, is still the number one guy in this class looking forward. But at the same time, man, I'm not sure any single rookie running back has been more disappointing in fantasy than Jonathan Taylor. I think he's still had some upside, but he's been incredibly disappointing, as fair or unfair as that is.
It's fair.
Yeah,
he seems immature. He just seems immature in the backfield. And I don't mean his attitude or his mentality. He is just a young running back, and he's struggling to see the holes, or he's struggling to read the defense. And that's something that I think can improve. I think he has all the talent in the world. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem at all. You know, I've seen a tremendous amount of owners dumping him on forums and whatnot. I think that's a terrible decision. I expect Taylor possibly to make the biggest jump out of any of these rookie running backs next year. I think they'll get him the ball more. Maybe they're just easing him in. You know, they're getting the ball a lot to Hines. I think, honestly, Rivers is hurting Taylor this year, just with his play style, his lack of big passing plays. I think there's a lot of factors going into why Taylor is not living up to what people were hoping. Because Taylor was supposed to hit immediately. He was supposed to be arguably the safest running back in this class. Put him in. He's running behind the best O-line in football. Put him in. He's going to be a top 5 running back was a lot of the consensus. But you just got to slow your roll. No big deal that if he takes an extra year, he takes an extra year. It's not a big deal. And much like Dobbins, I think he's a pure runner and a pure running system due to the offensive line for the Colts. I think they've got a system that, man, you put a guy like Taylor back there and give him the ball, hopefully it's a great system for him, and he's starting to play better. He's put together a couple good weeks here, and I could see a lot of people getting low ball offers for Taylor this summer if you own him.
I'm gonna send a few.
Yeah, just decline and move on. That's all you could do. And I think selling Jonathan Taylor is a terrible decision this summer. So just my 2 cents.
Sure. Yeah, I think that he will make the jump. He absolutely proved it in college. I mean, people were concerned about his mileage in college with how many carries he had, but that's college. NFL is a completely different ball game. Way different staff of trainers, people maintaining your body. I think the offensive line will be just as good. I'm not sure that the Colts will re-sign or extend or whatever the deal is with Phillip Rivers. I've done some research, and there's a couple rumors, not rumors, predictions, I should say, about Jameis Winston being the starting quarterback for the Colts in the 2021 season. It'd be pretty crazy. But I think the Colts are too conservative to house a QB like Jameis Winston, so I don't really see it happening. He throws way too many picks, and I don't think that's the Colts, the organization's type of offensive gameplay. But we'll see. We'll see. Regardless, I mean, even with this type of year, Jonathan Taylor will still probably put up like 750 rushing yards, and that's really not that bad as a rookie. I'm not going to lie, it's not that bad. But when you're expecting a stud, you're expecting him to break over 1,000 rushing yards. I get it. But it seems like a lot of players this year have been a little unpredictable with where you thought they would be right now to where they actually are right now. And rookie running backs is a big thing like that. Rookie wide receivers, some of the top wide receivers, which we'll get into. Honestly, Tyler, we might have to do this whole episode about running backs, to be honest. But let's say whenever we talk about wide receivers, there's a lot of guys who you thought would be on the top that are not on the top or not close to the top. But everything should average out. But I think Jonathan Taylor, his measurements are there, his mentality is there, his offensive system is there. He will be a top 5 running back next year, and I don't think there's any question about it. He seems durable, except I think he landed on the COVID list last week or whenever it was. So maybe as long as COVID isn't in the picture in 2021. But there's no argument. I would be willing to give up any of these running backs plus more on this list for Jonathan Taylor. I think he's a great RB to hold.
Yeah, I agree. I would pay a lot for Taylor. I know in our big league that he is flat untouchable. And to circle back on another one of your points, Brendan, I don't even think we're going to get through the running backs tonight. So I'm looking at the clock here. We really don't have much time. So let's go through.
Yeah, real quick, Tyler, I want to explain real quick. I mean, every show we have to announce that we're running out of time. To all the listeners, we try to keep these episodes to about an hour. We don't really want to go over an hour because we want to keep them more so short and sweet. That way there's a lot of content and we don't rush anything. So when you hear us say, hey, we're low on time, it's because we're trying to put out hour-long episodes. So just wanted to clear the air there, Tyler. Yeah, who's up next? Let's blow through the running backs if we can get through them all.
Yeah, I don't know if we can, man. We might have to break it up into next week. We finish running backs, start WRs, finish WRs. Sure. QBs and tight ends, that'll be one show, man. We'll rip through those guys.
Yeah, no one cares about tight ends unless you're in a tight end premium, so whatever.
I think keeping or really diving into the running backs and wide receivers is big. So
okay, you know what? Then let's do 2 more running backs, and this will kind of complete, the big 5 of the 2020 draft class plus Antonio Gibson, and then we can talk about the lower half of the list next week. Because honestly, I've got a couple would you rather questions I'd like to ask, and it's a special segment for you for the playoffs. So.
Okay, well, let's do one more. We'll save one of the big hitters for next week, as well as some of the undercard guys. But I think it would be almost inappropriate not to include this guy in our list this week. Currently, for me, I know it's not a popular opinion, but there is no question James Robinson is the best rookie running back in the NFL right now. Period. End of story. There is no question. He has 212 carries for 968 yards, 7 TDs, 310 receiving yards, and 2 TDs. So again, I know we just came through Jonathan Taylor, who's probably been the biggest disappointment on the running back side, whereas James Robinson has no question been not only the biggest surprise at running back, he's been the biggest surprise in fantasy football, period. Doesn't matter if you're a veteran, rookie, whatever. He's been the biggest surprise. Looks like an absolute rock solid steal in Dynasty. This guy was probably A, not drafted, B, drafted in the 5th round of your draft. He's an absolute steal, and he looks like a rock solid running back moving forward. And here's why for me, Brendan. Obviously, his yards are there. I think he is the 4th highest yard total in the NFL currently. And the 310 yards receiving sticks out for me. That's huge. The guy has massive receiving potential. We've talked about it a little bit in the past. Jacksonville has holes everywhere in their entire lineup, maybe outside of wide receiver, but even that, little sketchy. They have holes everywhere. Everybody is so concerned about James Robinson long term. James Robinson will cost essentially an NFL team zero. It's not even going to register on the cap because it's going to be so low.
Couple 100,000.
Yeah, James Robinson's their running back next year. He's their workhorse next year, and he probably is for the next 2 or 3 years. So everybody that's looking to dump James Robinson as a one-hit wonder, I get it. I just don't think it's a smart decision. It's all about volume for running backs. We've talked about that a million times, Brendan, and his volume is there. And I get it that you're going to want to sell high, but you can't always sell high on players. Again, I think it's a big mistake to trade James Robinson this offseason. I know that's not a popular opinion, and I know it's not a popular opinion that he's the best rookie running back by far, period.
Yeah, I think if you get an absolute haul, I mean, it'd be tough. It'd be tough not to sell him. But, I mean, on a rebuilding team, he's super young. On a contending team, he's super valuable. I mean, he's got the all-around package. And the craziest part about James Robinson is that he's doing all this on a really bad team, offensively and defensively. Now, they will probably draft Justin Fields. I don't see how they won't, unless they get Trevor Lawrence. Assuming they get Justin Fields, I think that James Robinson has an even better shot at outproducing what he did this year. Now, James Robinson is a guy that you're not going to be able to buy for cheap because the people selling him want to sell him on this season. They're selling him based on what he did this season. They're not going to compromise. So it's tough. You either have him or you don't have him at this point. My goal would be to look for who's going to be the next James Robinson. That would be my goal for this upcoming year. And unfortunately, it's impossible to predict. Nobody would have ever knew this guy would have done this. So James Robinson is a stud. There's no way around that. He went to my college, which, I got to represent Illinois State University here, ISU, baby. He is a dog. And you should be happy that you picked him up or you traded for him when he was a throw-in player or whatever it was, or however you grabbed him. You should be very happy for yourselves to realize you scouted out a guy before anybody else did.
Well, and I think a couple of things you said, Brendan, are really, really interesting that I think so many people within the community are worried about James Robinson long-term, that you're never going to get what his value should be in a trade, in my opinion. You're never going to get a haul. You're never going to get multiple first-round picks because people aren't going to be willing to pay it just in case next year he doesn't hit or they do replace him, which, again, I think is –
he's the only light on that offense.
Yeah, it's an impossibility, but everybody focuses on that he's undrafted and that he will be replaced. So I think – he's one of the easiest holds in fantasy because people aren't going to offer more than, I'll give you a second and Mike Williams, and it's not worth it,
I'd rather hold the running back who has a shot to recreate what he just did this season with a potentially better team. If you're in an organization, you should be getting better every year you have draft picks. That's the whole idea of getting draft picks is your organization sucks, you get higher draft capital, you improve your team. It would be difficult to watch the Jags get only one win. Let's assume they finish 1-15. which they probably will. Honestly, I have no other expectations for them. But they will only get better, which means their total offense should increase. Their defense should stop the ball a little bit more, giving the offense the ball, giving James Robinson even more opportunities. He's going to be a great running back to own, and right now he's an RB1, and there's no way around it, Tyler. That's fantastic. I like him on this list, and it's really difficult to believe. You don't even realize he's a rookie. Like, you don't even realize he's a rookie running back.
Yeah, and just one more quick thought, Brendan. You've been doing this a long time like me, man. When is the last time he's been a top 5 running back all season.
Mm-hmm.
When is the last time a top 5 running back heading into week 14 was valued like this?
Arian Foster.
Could be, because everybody
I put
was
Arian
always
Foster like
about
4
his,
years ago, undrafted, maybe before 4 years ago. I forgot when he was in the league, but other than that, never.
Yeah, and look what Foster turned into. Albeit he had a shorter shelf life, Foster was a freaking monster in fantasy.
He was crazy. He was
unreal. So don't trade Arian Foster. You know, don't make the same mistake twice.
Use him for 2 more years and then dump him.
If James Robinson has 2 more good years or 2 more top 12 years, he's paid you back. If he falls off the face of the earth after that, that's fantasy. You know, most guys aren't relevant for 10 years.
Yeah, a 3-year shelf life of producing at a high capacity is actually really good. I mean, if you get a guy that produces for 3 years in a row, I mean, that's a really solid number amount of years. So excellent, Tyler. Hey, man, real quick, we got to do the Would You Rather segment, one of our favorites, The Wire, WYR. Real quick, I want to do this, and then we'll talk about the hot takes for a quick second, because it did conclude one of the most important segments of our show. But this time I will be asking you the Would You Rather Own segment. But here we go. Instead of just who would you rather own on your roster, it's going to be who would you rather start on your playoff roster for your matchup. So I've got a few options here. I'm hoping that some of these guys double up on people's rosters so they actually can listen and get advice. That the first one, I actually own both of these guys, so maybe I'm seeking some help. I don't know, but here we go. Idea. Yeah, there you go, man. So we'll do it every week until the playoffs end. That way people can get our advice. If you have any players that you want us to talk about in this segment, if you have roster needs or lineup issues, you need advice, hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at Halfback Dynasty. Send us an email, halfbackdynasty@gmail.com, or find us on dynastyleaguefootball.com. My name is McCaskies. Tyler is Gatorsons. He is a 5-star legend, Hall of Famer. Tyler, here we go. You understand the segment. You ready?
Let's rip through it, man.
All right, here we go. First one. Would you rather start this week, first week of playoffs, Miles Sanders versus the New Orleans Saints, or Wayne Gallman versus the Arizona Cardinals?
Wayne Gallman.
No doubt about it. I agree. He's actually producing very well right now. I encourage everybody to look at his fantasy points per game the past 6 weeks. The guy is a running back too right now. Really solid numbers. Next up, Jarvis Landry versus the Baltimore Ravens, or Marvin Jones Jr. versus the Green Bay Packers if Kenny Golladay does not play.
Jones Jr. if Golladay sits.
Okay, fantastic. Next up, we've got some younger wide receivers. Michael Pittman versus the Las Vegas Raiders, or Michael Gallup versus the Cincinnati Bengals.
I'd rather gamble on Pittman, man. Dallas too sketchy.
Sure, I agree. Can't stand Dallas. Can't stand that whole division. All right, moving into some quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or Teddy Bridgewater versus the Denver Broncos?
Couple pretty solid to decent defenses there. I'd go Cousins due to his weapons.
Yeah, and he only needs one of them to have a great game, assuming he'll have a great game. Yeah. Perfect. All right, here we go. Now, 2 of these tight ends that I'm about to bring up, this is the last one on the list. Both of these guys have actually been, I guess, undervalued, but they're producing very well right now. Eric Ebron versus the Buffalo Bills, or Evan Ingram versus the Arizona Cardinals?
I would say Ebron because of quarterback play. If Danny Dimes is playing, it makes it closer. But if it's Colt McCoy again, it's too risky, man.
Colt McCoy, baby.
My best advice, it's taken me years and years and years to understand this. Roll your best lineup in the playoffs. Don't shoot for upside. Don't shoot for a guy that could blow up. Play your best lineup, Period. End of
Agreed.
story.
Agreed. And
And if it
Eric,
costs you the game, it costs you the game.
yeah, but at least you went in there with your safest lineup. So,
Yep.
Eric Ebron's actually like the tight end, like 5 or something. He's a top end tight end right now in certain leagues and formats. So Tyler, that's gonna do it. Great picks there. Real quick, I know we got a couple minutes to carve this out. Hot takes and bold predictions has officially concluded. Tyler, you ended up going 0-6, 0-3 the past 2 weeks to lose by 1 point. Now, our bet was the loser has to cover the buy-in for the winner. So you and I were talking pre-show, and since I adopted a team in your league and you covered my first year's buy-in, I couldn't take that $100. So I'm going to give that back to you as an honest keepsake, a great friendship of a great co-host on this Dynasty podcast. So I'm excited. Next year, however, I will for sure take that $100 bill and I will spend it.
That's pure class, Brendan. Yeah,
I'll spend it all on Hennessy, baby.
That'll buy you a couple bottles of Hennessy, man. That's pure class, Brendan. Obviously, you got bragging rights all year. Just absolutely brutal. Who am I? The Jets? I needed 2 victories out of 6. Couldn't get it. 0-6 to lose it, man. That is just
0-6. It's brutal. But, the point of hot takes and bold predictions is they're not supposed to be easy to get. You're supposed to get more wrong than you get right. Real quick, just like we do with all the other shows, let's go over who did you miss on? What were your previous hot takes and why did they miss?
Keenan Allen, I thought would have 100 yards and a TD. Obviously, nobody had a TD for the Chargers in that game. Miss.
Rough.
My boy, I went to the well. A guy I can't stand. Stephon Diggs would have at least 75 yards and a teeter. Didn't happen, but to be fair, he played well. He got over the yardage. Just didn't get in the end zone because apparently Cole Beasley was the best receiver in football last week. DeAndre Hopkins would bounce back with 115 yards. I picked guys that all went up against tough Ds, and it cost me $100. But as I said, pure class, Brendan.
Absolutely.
You got bragging rights all year, man. It was tough to get out of bed on Monday morning knowing that I had to come face the music. So
that's worth $100 right there, man. I love it.
Congrats,
real
man.
Quick. I ended 0-3, so I mean, there's really not much good that came out of this week. Of course, I bet it all on the Chicago Bears, which let me down. The whole team let me down yet again. I predicted Allen Robinson would grab like 7 receptions, I think, for over 100 yards. Was super close. Didn't get there. I predicted David Montgomery will rush for over 100 yards. He had like 70 yards going into the second half. Clearly did not break 100 yards. And then I had Mitchell Trubisky will throw at least 2 touchdown passes. Did not happen. But at least, Tyler, you did not come through. So you gave me the dub. And I will make sure that I will rub it in your face up until week 1 of the 2021 season. Hot takes and bold predictions, baby. That's what's up.
Please do, Brendan. Real quick, we need to improve our records dramatically next year as a twosome here, and unbelievable that David Montgomery didn't hit for you. He was playing so well, and then I kept looking at his stats, and it was like, well, he's just not doing anything now. So
it's awful because they didn't give him the ball because the Bears coaching is just atrocious.
The Bears, man. So, Brendan, I'll lead us off with closing statements here. I know we're really up against it, but if you've been eliminated from the playoffs or you simply did not make it, now's the best time to take a hard look at your roster and figure out your goals for next year and the next couple of years. You got to have goals going in, try to hit those goals. If it's time to rebuild, retool, or go all in for next year, now's the time to get your ducks in a row. Players are cheaper in the off season than normal, so get that going. Sometimes early in the off season is the best time to buy because people are just disappointed dynasties over for another half a year. So, it could be the best time to buy. My biggest caution is that be careful buying real life players that are due up to be free agents. Don't buy them too early in the offseason, and then they go to just a dreadful situation because then you're stuck with them. Look at like a Le'Veon Bell when he went to the Jets. A lot of people bought him on his Pittsburgh Steelers days. Horrible trades were made for him. So be a little cautious there. Let that part of the offseason play out. And then good luck to everybody listening who's still in the playoffs. Hit us up. We're happy to help with your lineup and anything we can help with. Hoping everybody has a great first week of playoffs.
Couldn't have said it any better, Tyler. Thank you to all of you who listened. Let us know how we can help you out and assist you during your playoff run or your early rebuild strategies. We're here to help you. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate your time. Stay smooth, and just remember, you're in this for life.